team that I think may experience a really painful 2023 is Pittsburgh. Their movie comp that I came up with is The Fellowship of the Ring, and what I mean by this is, I think it's a great developmental story, right? Pat Narduzzi is doing some awesome things there, but as far as action, not a lot happens in that movie. And unfortunately, I think for Pitt, this is going to be one of those years that you wish you could fast forward through. I think this ends up being a rebuilding season for Pitt, who lost a whole lot of production, not only on the offensive side, but their front four as well. I mean, losing Kalijah Cansey, who is a game changer in the front there. I, I'll tell you right now, Pitt goes 5-7 in my projections.
Wow.
Well, I know, it's not
Wow.
good. I know it's not good. Let me make the case for you. Pat Narduzzi, 62-41 in his tenure at Pitt. He has done nothing but meet expectations at the very least, right? I mean, he's really been very reliable, 8-4, kind of the floor. The issue is this year, the offense hinges around one man, a man who I have tried to buy stock in, who I have wanted to believe in, and then he ends up on the old injury report, and that's Phil Dracovic, the Boston College transfer. I had such high hopes for him on Chestnut Hill, and they never worked. I'll kind of sing a sad song about Boston College coming up, but he's got a big arm and decent potential, but he just cannot stay healthy. That and the fact that I don't see Zay Flowers on this roster really make me question where the points are going to come from Pitt. The running back is totally by committee this year. They've got Rodney Hammond Jr., Sibo Flimster, and then Derek Davis, who's an LSU transfer. He was actually a defensive back last year who they convinced to make the switch to running back. So it's not the deepest running back room. Uh, Conte Munfield is a potential star in the making out wide, but other than Munfield, there's not really anybody that scares me. So you're telling me there's an injury-prone quarterback who has never really been consistent. You don't have a running game with a guy who you can just rely on, and you've got kind of one guy to throw to. It makes me really nervous. Defensively, we've got David Green, who's the only returning starter on the front four from a season ago. The edge rushing, nobody stands out. It's going to be kind of by committee. There's 4 or 5 guys that they're planning on rotating through there. So I'm wondering where they're going to get the pass rush from. They've got good corners. You've got MJ Devonshire, who's the captain of the secondary, Marquise Williams, and then AJ Woods. They all return as starters. So I think the secondary should be pretty good, but kind of it's kind of a theme as we go through the rest of these ACC teams. It's like, man, maybe you have one thing that you do really well on defense, but if you can't score the points, like I don't know that Pitt is built to win games defensively, right? So I know I'm low on them, 5-7, and that's one step above my floor. I could see them going 4-8. You could make a case for that. I think their ceiling is 7-5 because their schedule isn't that hard, other than a run from September the 9th through November the 4th. So basically a month is really, really tough. And for all those reasons, I'm out on Pitt this year.
Love the Shark Tank. But listen, I'm going to make the case for Pitt to have not a magical season, not a, busting the seams of the college football playoff like Desmond Howard wanted to think they were going to do last year. But
that was tough.
Yeah, that was a rough scene for Desmond. But
yeah,
listen, we trust Pat Narduzzi to put a competent defense on the field, do we not? I think at this point he's earned our benefit of the doubt. I know they're losing a lot of talent. I know that they haven't necessarily brought in this particular class, hasn't necessarily been, a lot of guys that you're really excited about. They did have a nice freshman linebacker commit in Jordan Bass. I think that's a really fun piece to the puzzle there. Brought in a couple of talented guys from Florida. But I think, this could maybe for Pitt this year be the anti-North Carolina. I think they might be a half team. If Phil Dracovic goes down, they definitely will be a half team at best.
Yeah.
But when Phil Dracovic is healthy, he can win you games in the ACC. He won games at Boston College. I think they have better talent at Pitt than Phil had around him at Boston College. Zay Flowers notwithstanding. But if Phil Dracovic can stay healthy, I trust the defense. I trust Pat Narduzzi. I trust, the system that they have there. Yeah, they lost a lot of pass rush production, but they were number one in the country at getting to the quarterback last
They
year.
were.
That's not a lot of that's talent, but a lot of that is the system too, because consistently you see Pitt at the very top of those lists year in and year out under Narduzzi. So I'm not ready to say that it's going to be doom and gloom. I look at the schedule. I think other than North Carolina, I think they're going to be favored all the way through September going into their bye week. I'm not high on West Virginia this year. I know that that's a possible loss in a rivalry game on the road. I don't think West Virginia is going to be very good this year. I don't think Cincinnati is going to be very good this year. The back half is really tricky with trips to Notre Dame, Florida State at home, Duke on the road to end the year. The back half is really tricky. It could definitely spiral out of control in the back half. So don't hear what I'm not saying. But the middle of this conference is so vulnerable that I think if you can do one thing really, really well, and I think Pitt does defense really, really well, there's a lot of opportunities for wins against teams that might just have an off day or that you can shut down on any given day. So I'm a little bit higher on him. I think I had him at 8-4. That's about par for the course for the Narduzzi era. But I think a steady 8-4 could be in the cards for them this year.
Yeah, Mitch, I'm a little bit more with you. I think I have him going 5-7 as well. I'm just going to be a Pitt hater. Sorry about it. I don't know what else to say. I look at the schedule really, and for me, it's not really about what Pitt's doing necessarily. It's more about what they won't be doing, and I think what they won't be doing is playing good offense. I'm sorry, I just don't believe in Phil Dracovic at all. I've watched the tape, I've seen it. He throws some interceptions. He without Zay Flowers, I don't really know what he is. And so when I look at the schedule, you kind of glanced over, Trey, just the at West Virginia being maybe a loss in a rivalry game. They almost lost that game in Pittsburgh last year. It took some real magic to not lose that game.
The vibes are so low in Morgantown, though.
They are bad.
No, you're absolutely right. They were bad last year too. So I'm just saying, in a rivalry game, you don't.
They had hope week one last year. They have Neil Brown, and they don't know why.
Daniels was going to save the program last year.
You're right. No, that's
now he's going to save Rice apparently.
Yeah, maybe he will. But no, you have that. You have North Carolina on the schedule, and then it's at Wake Forest, at Notre Dame. You have Florida State at home, at Duke. Like, these are just some games on here I'm looking at. I'm saying, yeah, that's a bunch of losses. And then you got to talk about toss-ups. I think Louisville could be a toss-up. I think Syracuse might be all right. And Trey, when we did the episode about quarterbacks, in the ACC and talking about who might be the best, we put Phil Dracovic right in the middle of that whole just lump of guys who could be number 5. We ended up going, I think, Garrett Schrader there, but it could be a lot of different guys who's that 5th best quarterback. There's just kind of a lump of average, mediocre, quarterbacks. And I don't see the talent around him. I don't see the playmakers around him that'll help him overcome any of that. So I have him going 5-7 as well. A little bit of a step back for Pittsburgh. I think it'll be a little bit unfortunate. They're going to have to go to the portal. They're going to have to build a better roster, and they're going to have to do a little bit better getting some of those playmakers in to help them out get back to where they were going to be.
I am really curious to see what Randy Bates does after losing so much production. Trey, you mentioned he's got one of the most aggressive and statistically last year, the most productive defensive line and pass rush in the country. A lot of that talent just walked out the door. So now I think his scheme really does get put to the test. I worry about attrition offensively for Pitt. And I think getting eaten alive after that bye week is certainly possible. Could I see them going 8-4? Of course. That's what I have their ceiling listed as, but I have it as 7-5. I just don't know if they're going to be able to score points to beat a Louisville at home, a Wake Forest, a Notre Dame on the roads, stuff like that. We'll see. Happy to be proven wrong there.
The path is them having, of this middle tier of the ACC. It's all kind of a glob of teams that are going to be in that 5-7 to 7-5 to 8-4 range if they can make a run.
Yeah.
If they can have the best individual unit, that's the path for Pitt. So if the Pitt defense is the best individual unit out of all that middle tier, you're going to be looking at a more respectable season for Pitt.
Gracious, how about